Speier of California. She, of course, sits on one of those committees investigating the Russia probe, conducting a Russia probe, the House Intelligence Committee. I just gave you a promotion, Congresswoman. It's great to see you. Thank you so much.
Great to see you, Kate.
On the FBI interviews with Carter Page, does House Intel still want to speak with Carter Page as part of your investigation? That has not happened yet, has it?
No, and it's certainly someone that I want to hear from. He is a significant person in the probe, I believe, because he was on Donald Trump's campaign as a foreign advisor. He also has a firm that has only one other member, an investment firm, and it is a former executive of the state-owned company in Russia, Gazprom. There is speculation as to why he made that trip back in July 2016 when he gave the address to the new economics school for the graduation class. You know, Russia is very good at luring Americans and others to come to the country to receive honoraria, much like Michael Flynn did. And I wouldn't be surprised if he is an unwitting agent or a witting agent. So that's all something that we have to explore in the months ahead.
But to this day, still, you have not sat down. He has not been a witness before the committee. So a lot of those questions you still do need to ask. Another potential witness, Armani Raju, is reporting that John Podesta, of course, is the campaign chairman for Hillary Clinton's campaign, that he will be interviewed by your committee as early as today. What can you tell me about that?
Well, I can tell you that he is on the list and will be one of the witnesses. I'm not at liberty to tell you who we will be interviewing today.
But it would not be incorrect to say that he will be interviewed by the committee in the coming days?
Yes, it would not be incorrect.
What questions do you have for John Podesta?
Well, I don't really have a lot of questions for John Podesta. I think that this is yet again an effort by my Republican colleagues to divert the investigation into areas that are not going to be probative or necessarily helpful in determining whether or not the Russians infiltrated into our election and whether or not Trump campaign operatives were wittingly or unwittingly involved with Russia in that infiltration.
But you don't think it's important to find out exactly how the hack happened and to what extent the Clinton campaign did or did not cooperate with any efforts to try to that the FBI had to try to get in there and help them out, just as DHS Secretary Jay Johnson said that they had trouble doing?
Well, actually, Jay Johnson said that he was really not privy early on to the hacking going on. It was much later in the process. But I would say that has some value, but it is not critical to the investigation, in my view.
Let's move to something else that is very critical on Capitol Hill right now and far beyond, the health care bill. Republicans, they're trying to work through their version of the health care bill in the Senate right now. If they would, and it's a big if right now, if they would get something through, are you prepared to stay in town over the weekend or through the recess to work through whatever they send over to the House side?
Well, I'm prepared to stay in town to vote against it. I am not going to be part of an effort to unwind 22 million Americans who presently have health insurance, the tens of thousands of children with disabilities that have access to health care and resources because of Medicaid, the 15 million Americans who are cancer survivors that rely on health insurance that is affordable in order to pursue their care. I'm here to make sure that they're protected. This is more than a mean bill. This is a destructive bill. This is a bill, without being hyperbolic, that will guarantee that people will die. What are you going to do? Kick all these people out of nursing homes?
Congresswoman? How can you say it's going to guarantee people are going to die?
Because they will not be able to access health care. And if you can't access health care and you're in an emergent situation, you will not get that health care and you will likely die.
But guaranteeing someone will die under the Republican Senate health care plan, that's not going over the line?
No, I think there's no question that that will happen.
make sure that we get Republican response on that. You are about to head home unless you're asked to stay in town by the House Speaker. And let's just say that a constituent comes up to you, Congressman, and says, no matter what Republicans are doing, in what bill that they were putting together, I have real problems with Obamacare. Obamacare is hurting me, this constituent says to you. And they ask you, why aren't you working to fix this rather than just saying no? What do you say to them?
So what I would say to them is they're absolutely right. There are a lot of amendments we have to make to Obamacare, just like there were a lot of amendments that were made to Medicare after it was first became law in this country. We need to fix the cost elements in the Affordable Care Act. We need to create more cost containment. And I am with them in wanting to do that. But we have to have a willing participant in doing that. And the Republicans, 65 times, have been interested in nothing more than putting a bill on the floor to repeal it. That is not constructive.
Well, and here's the thing about repeal and the word and the actual policy of repeal. Senator Schumer, he said something similar, that Democrats are ready to work with Republicans as soon as they take repeal off the table. But if you ask any conservative congresswoman, they will say this isn't repeal at all, what you're looking at in the Senate. How is it not an opportunity for you guys to get this right?
So if you're taking 22 million people by the Congressional Budget Office out of health care, it's being repealed for 22 million Americans. So if the interest is making sure those 22 million Americans get health care and get health insurance, but find ways to reduce the cost, then I'm in. But if you're saying that it's not repeal and 22 million people are going to lose their health insurance, many more are going to have their costs skyrocket because they have a pre-existing condition, in this case cancer, and they'll be able to get health insurance, but the cost is going to skyrocket. I mean, you cannot have a tax cut for millions of Americans, anyone making over $300,000. That's what this bill does. Let's be clear. This is a huge tax cut for anyone making over $300,000 a year. You can't have that go into effect and also still provide health care for Americans.
The task now on the table for Republicans to figure out. Can I ask you one really quick? I want to ask you a final question on a very different topic because it is happening today, and you do sit on armed services as well. We had a statement that came from the White House yesterday warning of, and here's their wording, a potential preparations of another chemical attack by the Assad regime in Syria. And it warned Assad will pay a very heavy price if he would go through with another chemical attack. As a member of both Intel and Armed Services, do you know what the White House is talking about here? Have you guys got any information that another attack could be coming?
We don't have any information, Kate, and here's the problem. If, in fact, this information was given out by the president and is exposing now a source of intelligence, that's very dangerous because we'll lose that source of intelligence. It is not coupled with any strategy or plan, which is another problem. And we need to authorize military force, and you can't use a 2001 law that gave the president the authority to use force in Iraq and Afghanistan against al-Qaeda, against Assad in Syria. We need a new AUMF, and so I really am very concerned that this has been done without consultation with his Department of Defense, without consultation with the intelligence community. Again, he is operating without the benefit of all the resources in this country that are there precisely to give him the kind of information so he can make sound judgments.
We're going to get a report from the Pentagon exactly what the Pentagon knew and when in terms of the statement that comes out from the White House. But I appreciate your